I was having y'all boy Rico from RicoScores, and man, the Commanders are definitely receiving a little bit more hype than we normally do after that Broncos win, man. We're definitely receiving more hype than we received entering the season when we were still 0-0. 2-0 changes a few things. When you're one of the only 9 teams in the NFL that is still undefeated, it changes a few things. But even though we have a top 9 record, do a lot of these expert analysts from all these different websites and organizations, ESPN, Bleacher Report, Pro Football Focus, NFL Network, CBS, we're going to dive into it, man. Do all of those guys feel like we are a top 9 team, at the very least a top 10 team like our record states? Or is it just based on competition? The Cardinals are 0-2, the Broncos are 0-2. Are we going to get deducted points for that? I mean, of course, this upcoming game against the Bills, we win that, we're going to skyrocket up power rankings. But before we get to all of that, before we get ahead of ourselves that week, we got to focus on everything and where we're ranked this week. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the Commanders content, of course, every single week during the regular season, and I'm gonna speak it into existence the postseason as well. I do a game preview video leading up to every game. I do a game live stream during every game. I do a game review video after every game, and then we do the call-in live stream show after every game as well, where y'all call in, you voice your opinions. Everybody has a 3-minute limit, and just go crazy, man. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this video. Let's get it.
You tell your family you're gonna be a commander.
All right, of course, me being Rico of RicoScores, we're also going to read some of the reasons why we're ranked where we're ranked according to a lot of these places. Like ESPN, we're ranked 12th, and in the previous week, we were ranked 21st. So after beating the Cardinals, we were 21st. After beating the Broncos, we moved all the way up to 12. So a lot of these power rankings that I'm going to give y'all, if not almost all of them, I'm going to also tell you what we were ranked the previous week, before we beat the Broncos as well, because I think that's pretty interesting. So for ESPN, we moved up 9 whole spots to the 12th best team in the NFL. And then John Comm, the Commanders ESPN representative, said Sweat has been a terrific edge run defender, but his highest sack total is 9. However, through 2 games this season, Sweat has 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He's learning from assistant line coach Ryan Kerrigan, the franchise's all-time sack leader. And that's a great point, man. Ryan Kerrigan being there as an assistant defensive line coach is huge. Of course, us going from Sam Mills III to Jeff Zgonina is also helping a lot too. Of course, and then Warren Sapp always pulling up occasionally, even though that's about to stop now because he just got that job with Deion Sanders to go over there and coach at Colorado next year. So I think we'll no longer see Warren Sapp around training camp and stuff like that. But it was really fun while it lasted. Or was it mandatory OTAs? Was one of those events. But either way, all of that help that we've been getting between Warren Sapp, Ryan Kerrigan, Jeff Zgonina, and everybody just being healthy at the same time, definitely why this defensive line is dominating right now, and arguably the best defensive line in football, and also one of the reasons, arguably the biggest reason that we're winning games right now, according to who you ask. Eric Bieniemy, Sam Howell, you can even maybe throw Brian Robinson in there, our receiving group, and this defensive line, and an improved secondary. Also, Jamin Davis out there making plays, man. And man, it's a lot of blame to go around for why we're running through these people so far. Hopefully, we can go through the Bills, too. Now, CBS Sports has us ranked 8th. They had us 14th last week. Pete Prisco of CBS Sports said they are 2-0 after rallying to beat the Broncos. Sam Howell came up big to bring his team back, which is a good sign. I agree. Sporting News has us ranked 16th, had us ranked 18th last week, so only up 2 spots. But Vinny said the Commanders are also 2-0 and have seemed to close the QB talent gap, the division, with Sam Howell joining Hurts, Prescott, and Daniel Jones. Defense is up and down, but Ron Rivera made the right call with Eric Bieniemy. I like the fact that they're acknowledging that Sam Howell isn't just obviously the worst quarterback in this division. Or, I mean, to me, he was the most unproven, but I don't know why people were saying definitively Sam Howell was the worst quarterback in this division. Right now, honestly, I think it's between him and Dak Prescott, who's played the best so far this season. Am I saying that Sam Howell is better than Jalen Hurts already? No, but if we're saying how they've played so far through 2 games, Sam Howell. It's between Sam Howell and Dak Prescott, in my opinion, who's performed the best. We'll see though, man. We got a lot more football to go, man. 15 more games, in fact. Well, more games than that because the playoffs. I told y'all, I keep speaking it into existence. Bleacher Report has us ranked 15th. They had us ranked 25th last week. So that's our biggest jump so far. That's going to be one of the biggest jumps out of any of these power ranking updates that I give y'all. That's 10 whole spots. Bleacher Report said there were some encouraging signs for Washington. Young running back Brian Robinson amassed 129 total yards and scored twice. In his first game action of 2023, edge rusher Chase Young logged 1.5 sacks. The question for these Commanders now is whether they can get a victory against a good team. Their first two opponents this year are combined 0-4. We're about to find out the answer to that question. Washington hosts the Buffalo Bills next week before traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Now, I feel like the Cardinals, first of all, are a better team than most people thought. I know I definitely didn't expect the Cardinals to be as good as they are. They should have beat the Giants. And then even when you look at the Giants, I don't think the Giants are better than the Commanders, but I don't also think they're just complete trash, and they still found a way to beat the Cardinals. I think the Broncos gave us their best effort. I just think the better team won at the end of the day. I felt like we were the better team going in. That's why I was so not only just disappointed but surprised when we were down 21-3. But then also looking at who the Denver Broncos have played, not only just us losing to us, but losing to the Raiders. The Raiders are pretty decent. I wouldn't discount the Raiders right now. I wouldn't say the Raiders are a great team, and they did just get ran through by the Bills. But hey, man, I don't think us beating a combined 0-4 record is as easy as people make it sound. I really don't. But either way, moving on. Pro Football Network has us ranked 14th now, had us ranked 19th the previous week. Dalton Miller of Pro Football Network said, who had the Commanders match up against the Broncos being a shootout? Who thought that the Commanders were capable of scoring 35 points? I mean, I was hoping we would be under Sam Howell and Scott and Eric Bieniemy, but my fault. Oh, it's called him Scott Turner. That's crazy. I deserve no views on this video for almost mistaking Eric Bieniemy for Scott Turner. I just got in the habit of saying that. Scott Turner coached 50 games for us over the past few years. But either way, man, going into the season with Sam Howell as the quarterback and Eric Bieniemy as our offensive coordinator, I had realistic hopes that we would score 35 points. But did I think that we would not only do it in general, but within just 2 games of this new combination of all of these new pieces and coaching staff and stuff like that? No, I did not. Then moving on, Dalton Miller also said the Commanders' defense leaked in the first half, allowed some massive completions down the field, but the unit settled in the second half. Completely agree. That's obvious. That first quarter was terrible. Not even just the first half. It was really the first quarter specifically. And then somewhat like halfway through the second quarter. Sports Illustrated has us ranked 17th, ranked 28th the previous week. They had us low like crazy 28 last week, but I'm glad they at least got a 17 this week. Connor from Sports Illustrated said, this should be a victory lap week for the Commanders. Like the Buccaneers, we have no idea where this is going. Teams start 2-0 all the time, but this staff and roster deserve a little bit of time in the sun. Playing under a new ownership group can be a nightmare, even for the most tenured and secure of head coaches. For Eric Bieniemy, venturing out on his own and betting his career on Sam Howell was also an incredible risk. I agree. And yet the Commanders are 5th in first downs picked up and 5th in rushing touchdowns. They're also in the top 10 in passing touchdowns and fewest interceptions thrown. I would happily be wrong to see the rebooted Washington football team somehow scale the NFC East. Moving on, Yahoo Sports has us ranked 17th, previous week 21st. Frank Schwab says Sam Howell has a long way to go as a quarterback. For starters, he holds the ball way too long, and I do agree with that. But he also has an innate playmaking ability. Completely agree with that. He brought the Commanders back from a 21-3 deficit with 299 yards passing. This 2-0 start hasn't been pretty for the Commanders, but there are some positive signs. Completely agree. Fox Sports ranked 17th, last week 23rd. David Hellman said, this pass rush is going to keep the Commanders in a lot of games. Completely agree. It doesn't matter who our opponent is. When you have a pass rush this diddly, a defense this suffocating, and now we're starting to force turnovers, oh yeah, it's up. It's up there, man. And if Sam Howell can step up and be an active part of the offense, as he was in Denver, then the ceiling for this team becomes appreciably higher. There's a huge opportunity to show exactly how legit they are on deck as the Bills come to town for week 3. Remember, that is in Maryland, in Landover, so that's a home game. It's already sold out and everything. That's incredible. Shouts out to all of y'all that are going to that game. It's sold out. Now, granted, it's going to be more Bills fans there for week 3 than there were Cardinals fans for week 1, but the fact that it's still sold out is phenomenal, and I'm pretty sure it will still be at least somewhat of a home field advantage vibe, more than what we've been getting the past few years. So I'm excited, man. Make some noise and force some turnovers, dog. Let's get it. Force some penalties, some false starts, some all of that type of stuff, man. The delay of games. Go crazy. Scream your hearts out, man. Forget about, you'll recover your voice by Monday morning, man. Don't even worry about it. NBC Sports have us ranked 15th now, had us ranked 20th last week. And of course, that's Mike Florio. He said Eric Bieniemy's star is rising. That's it. And I agree. NFL.com has us ranked 19th, ranked 21st last week, so they don't really respect the Broncos win that much. He said the Commanders are 2-0 for the first time in a dozen years. Coming back from down 18 on the road and going on a 32-6 scoring run are pretty positive signs. And I completely agree, but I would also add, just me and Rico Street Scores, that you should never be down that much in the first place. But that is very positive, the fact that we can even come back from that, because that would have been a death sentence for us for the past few years. I can't remember the last time we had a team where down 21-3. I'm even relatively hopeful that we can come back. And within the second week of a new offense, new quarterback, basically a new offensive line besides Charles Leno, and Charles Leno was the worst offensive lineman we had out there, the only continuity we even had. I mean, come on, dog. Within 2 weeks? Come on. Imagine when this offensive line fully clicks, is gelling, chemistry perfect, timing, everything. It's going to be ridiculous. Sunday's win over Denver was far more impressive than the smaller comeback against the lesser Cardinals at home in week 1. Washington has played better in the second halves of games than in the first. That pattern might work against Arizona and Denver, but will it stand up against the Bills in week 3? And I completely agree against that. You can't come out to that same slow start that we've had against the Cardinals and the Broncos against the Bills. We're going to lose that game. We play around like that. We can't keep being a second half team. You can't get away with that. You don't make the playoffs being a second half team. What gives the Commanders a chance is the play of Sam Howell. Kid has some guts, doesn't he? After some empty series early, he was battered around, but Howell was dialed in down the stretch, confidently leading 5 scoring drives in the final 32 minutes. And I'm telling y'all, man, just me being me watching that game live and everything, that if we end up being a great team, whether it's this year making the playoffs, a few years from now making the Super Bowl, and maybe winning a Super Bowl or something like that within like the next 5 to 7 years or something, hopefully quicker than that, that would be beautiful. And Sam Howell's our quarterback. Eric Bieniemy's our offensive coordinator, head coach, or whatever. We're going to look back at that Broncos come from behind down 21-3. Like, that was the one when we figured out. That was the game. That was the moment where we figured out this franchise is for real. If we become the next team that's at the very least consistently good, consistently going to the playoffs like the Packers have been for the past few years, like the Patriots were dating, during the Tom Brady days, and since the Chiefs have been since Pat Mahomes has been there. One of those teams that even when you don't win a Super Bowl, you at the very least considered a Super Bowl contender. If we become that, well, over the next few years, we're gonna look back at that comeback. That 21-3 was magical, dog. People don't come from that, especially from the burgundy and gold side. We don't make those type of comebacks. We just don't. Now we do. We're a better team. Only good teams make comebacks like that. And we look like we're a good team. How good? We got to talk about. We'll see. It's only 2 weeks, but we're at the very least, we know we're a good team. We're not a bad team. That's not a team that's tanking. That's not a team that's about to have a top draft pick. That is a team that, as long as we stay healthy relatively, we should be doing some damage. And I feel like should honestly make the playoffs in a weaker NFC. Now, the NFC East is arguably the best division in football. Statistically, it actually is the number one, literally best division in football. But the NFC as a whole, you know what I'm saying, making the playoffs isn't that hard. Now, also, USA Today has us ranked 23. They had us 26th last week. They said Sam Howell's the first Washington quarterback to win his first 3 career starts in Super Bowl era. Did not know that. That's interesting. That's included a pair of fourth quarter comebacks in this season's 2-0 debut. Still, concerns remain about what's going on before the fourth quarter and the level of opposition those struggles are occurring against. I completely agree. Now, I don't agree with having us ranked 23rd, but I agree with those concerns. Then you have Pro Football Focus. They have us ranked 18th, but actually they had us ranked 16th last week. They put us down 2 spots after beating the Broncos. And they don't even have an explanation. They just simply just said that. I mean, they have like a whole strength of schedule thing going on and all kinds of stuff like that, but I don't know why they have us that far down. I would love like an individual explanation on what happened while we moved down, if anything. And then going to sharpfootballanalysis.com, they have us ranked 23rd. They had us ranked 29th the previous week after we beat the Cardinals. Now, after beating the Broncos, we're 23rd. Interesting. Still very low, though. But, I mean, they had us 29th. That is a bottom 3 team in the NFL before we before we beat the Cardinals, which is cool. But no, actually, before we beat the Broncos, my fault. Then theathletic.com, shouts out to them. They have us ranked 12th. Last week, 16th. They said maybe it's smoke, maybe it's mirrors, maybe it's playing Arizona and Denver, but it's not offense that is Washington undefeated. Running back Brian Robinson at 87 grueling yards and 2 touchdowns Sunday, so maybe it's a little bit of him. Interesting analysis. I like the fact that they have us ranked 12th. Moving on, actionnetwork.com has us ranked 21st with no explanation. TheScore.com has us ranked 18th, had us ranked 20th last week. Opening the season with games against the Cardinals and Broncos is about as easy as it gets, but give credit where credit is due. The Commanders are much improved. Eric Bieniemy's offense is going to give this team a chance. I agree. Moving on, FanSided and NFL Spin Zone each have us ranked 10th. FanSided, Baxter from FanSided said Ron Rivera's club made its way to Denver looking for the franchise's first 2-0 start since 2011. The Commanders fell behind 21-3 in the second quarter, but were down by just 7 points at intermission. Rivera's team dominated the second half. Brian Robinson Jr. finished the game with 87 rushing and a pair of touchdowns. Sam Howell overcame 4 sacks and threw for 299 yards and 2 scores. Washington came up with 7 sacks of Russell Wilson. Finally, Washington thwarted Denver's game-tying 2-point conversion attempt with no time left. So no real analysis there. They basically just broke down what happened. NFL Spin Zone said the Washington Commanders Week 1 win wasn't impressive. They squeaked by the worst team in football by 4 points, but they showed a ton of toughness in Week 2 against the Denver Broncos plus 6.5. Erasing an 18-point deficit and hanging 35 points on the Broncos, Sam Howell looked like an NFL quarterback in Week 2. So again, FanSided and NFL Spin Zone have us ranked as the number 10 team in the NFL. And also, Jason Reed wrote an entire article about Eric Bieniemy and how much we're improving. Literally, like the face of the article says, one could make a very persuasive argument that in the history of the Super Bowl era, Eric Bieniemy had the best start to a career for an defensive coordinator through 5 full seasons, and now this. And there's a whole article breaking down Eric Bieniemy, what he did for the Chiefs, and now what he's doing for the Commanders. A lot of stats and interesting history facts and things like that. So if you want that, you can go to Jason Reed, of course, Jason, and then Reed, R-E-I-D, the guy that does all of the draft analysis and stuff like that. Go check that out if you want more information on that. But my main point from that is that a lot of people are taking notice. Again, like I talked about in one of my previous videos, that Skip Bayless even pointed out, like, hey, he tweeted, the Washington Commanders are not an easy automatic win on your schedule anymore, Cowboys. Watch out. So, hey, man, people are starting to realize that we were even starting to build some steam in the offseason. Like, even people like Mina Kimes and guys like that from, like, neutral analysts like ESPN, NFL Network, Kay Adams. All of these people are starting to finally show us love. And that's before we even started 2-0. Now that we're 2-0, even more people are starting to see us. So, let's get it, man. Let's beat the Bills and skyrocket up the power rankings. We beat the Bills. There shouldn't be a single power ranking where we're a double digit. We at the very least should be a top 9 team if we beat the Bills. For sure, definitively, in my opinion. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like in this video if you liked, if you learned anything. Of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of y'all donating to the channel. Right now, YouTube is tripping. So if you want to support the channel in any way, donate to the Cash App, $ RicoScores is in the description of every video, every live stream. Also, the PayPal, the same thing. Every video, every live stream in the description. WilliamHC94@gmail.com. If you want to support the stream, I'm working on saving up money for an additional stream deck, a bigger one, so y'all can get more live stream reactions, like all the gifs and noises I do to celebrate or to show I'm upset, all that type of stuff. So working on a better mic, saving up for that, everything. So man, if y'all can support the channel, I really appreciate it. And of course, leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.